Hey Defenders, welcome back. Quick apology for the lack of videos over about the last week and a half or so. I have actually been dealing with COVID, but thankfully I think I'm on the back half of it, and I'm about 80 to 85% recovered, which I think is enough to put out a video and get it out for you guys. So sorry about that, and thank you for your guys' patience while I deal with this. But the show must go on, so I wanted to go ahead and talk about PowerShell logging with you guys. So in this video, we are going to enable PowerShell logging and also get those logs over to our Wazoo infrastructure. So stick around and we'll jump into it. And alright, so in this video we will be doing PowerShell logging, and which will allow us to view when PowerShell events are triggered or scripts are called or whatever the case may be, any interaction with PowerShell that occurs on our Windows agents. There are a few steps that need to be taken to complete this process, and we're going to be going over these in today's video. The first one, if you don't already have PowerShell 5.0, then you will need to install that. All current releases of Windows have PowerShell 5.0, but if you are running on an older Windows box that may be running PowerShell 4.0, you will need to install 5.0. There is no reboot required to install PowerShell 5.0, which is nice, gives you a little flexibility. You don't have to require any downtime to get PowerShell 5.0 enabled. We will then enable PowerShell logging via a GPO policy. So most corporate environments will have a GPO server that is managed to push out policies to the rest of your Windows servers that are running within your environment. And we're going to do the same thing with PowerShell. You actually have to enable it via GPO. You can't go into any services or anything that run on a individual server. You actually do have to enable it via GPO. So in this lab and demo, we're going to Windows server that I'm running this on into give it the GPO feature. So we're going to enable the GPO feature so I can go ahead and turn on PowerShell logging for this server. And then we're going to configure the Wazoo agent to grab the PowerShell logs and send them to our Wazoo manager. And then we're going to add some rules on the Wazoo manager to be able to ingest these logs how we want them to. And then we're going to view them within Kibana, and we'll kick off a few. I like to use a APT simulator script that is hosted out on GitHub. That is a good way for us to trigger a lot of PowerShell events, and we'll be able to see all those logs start to come in. So let's go ahead and jump into that. And all right, so also in the GitHub, I have some steps for enabling the PowerShell logging via GPO settings. So I'll also link to that in the description in case you guys want to follow along. And I'll go ahead and throw this off to the side. Here's my window box here. So first, let me actually enable GPO functionality here, the GPO feature, I should say. So I'll go ahead and add roles and features, and I'll go next. Role, yeah, that's fine. Next. Yep, selecting the server I want to enable this on. So next, again, in a corporate or production environment, or really any network maintained by a business or corporation, GPO servers are probably already put in place, so you don't have to go through these steps to enable the GPO feature on a new Windows host. I'm just doing that in this example because I don't have a GPO server set up within my kind of lab environment that I use. So I'll go next. In here we're selecting roles. It's not a role, it's actually a feature, so I won't select anything here. I'll just go next, and then you see I get to the features tab here, and we're going to be looking for GPO. Here we go, group policy management. So I'll go ahead and select next. I'll say restart if required. It is not required, so, but I'll just select it anyways, whatever. But restart is not required. So we're going to now do the install, and it is now installing this, what Windows calls a feature. So I will use some editing magic and see you guys in a sec. Oh, never mind, not needed. It's already done. How about that? So I will then close this out. And now, alright, and now that we have that installed, let's go ahead and open up our group policy editor. So let me just do a search for group policy editor, and here we go. So we have edit group policy, so we'll go ahead and select that, and now we'll work our way down this tree here. So we're going to go into administrative templates, we are going to go then into Windows components, and if we scroll down, there should be a Windows PowerShell somewhere. Yep, here we go here, and as you can see, all of these are not configured. And there's a few different settings that we can turn on and enable. And then if we throw this guy out to the side here, we will then enable the module logging, the PowerShell script block logging, the script execution, and we can also turn on the PowerShell transcription as well. So, and then within the GitHub here, there's a little description over each of the different settings. So here's one talks about module logging. So it records pipeline execution details as PowerShell executes. So what variables is it initializing? What other commands are being invoked? Script block logging records blocks of code as they're executed. So we can see the full contents of code executed by the attacker, including any commands or scripts that are being called with PowerShell. So that makes it really powerful. And then transcription creates a unique record of every PowerShell session. So anytime someone even opens PowerShell, that'll be logged there as well. So there's a little more details about it. FireEye also has a good blog post about some of the details around the PowerShell logging settings that you can set, which I won't go into too much detail here because that's a little out of scope of this video. But let's go ahead and work our way through these. So first, let's turn on module logging. So I'll just double click this guy here. I will say set that to enabled, and then we have module names. So PowerShell has a lot of different modules, and to be honest, I don't know all of them off the top of my head. So what I like to do is select the show button here, and then for value, we're just going to do a wildcard of a asterisk symbol here, which will be everything. So we're enabling module logging on every module. So that's what that wildcard does there. So we'll go ahead and select OK. We'll hit apply, and then we'll hit OK. And then if we move this guy over, you see our state is now enabled. So then for script block logging, and this one's easy. We just have to select enabled. So we'll go ahead and select enabled, select apply, select OK. Turn on script execution allows you to control what scripts you allow PowerShell to run. For this demo, I'm not going to touch on that, but if you're looking to really lock down your PowerShell, I guess, infrastructure kind of thing, and what PowerShell can and can't do, that is a good feature to use if you want to go that route. And then for PowerShell transcription, we'll go ahead and select enabled. I'll say include invocation headers, and then you can make an output directory. So if you don't want to log these to, and this is only for the PowerShell transcriptions, if you don't want to log these to Windows Event Viewer, you could write them out to a particular directory. So if you do set this, which I won't, but it doesn't apply to the module logging or script block logging. It only the output directory would only apply to the PowerShell transcription events. Everything else, though, and if you don't enable the output directory, will output to Windows Event Manager. Windows Event Viewer, and we'll see that here in a sec. So I'll apply, I'll hit OK, and now we have all these enabled. So that is good. And now what we can do is let's open up Event Viewer here, and what we'll see, and just to make sure that this is working correctly, if that's really slow. If we go to if we go to Applications and Services, you'll see our Windows PowerShell is set here. Let me expand this out. Let me expand this. Refresh, and let's hit this with a GP update /force. So we'll update the new PowerShell policy. And okay, there we go. Let's go ahead and refresh, and it starts to look good. So now if we open up PowerShell here, let's see if we can start to trigger some alerts. So actually just from opening PowerShell, we should, and so here we see that I have the administrator account, which is what I'm logged in as, has just opened PowerShell via PowerShell exe. So I've started to interact with, so already just from a user opening PowerShell without doing anything, just opening PowerShell, we are now starting to get some details here around that, which is awesome. And alright, so let's go ahead and kick a command off, and let's see what we get within our event viewer. So I'll just do something harmless and do curl http open secure.co. Hit enter. I'm sure it'll gripe at me because, well, it's not HTTPS, and so curl is saying cannot create a SSL channel, which is fine. We don't care about the output. We now just want to see what was logged within our event viewer here. So if we go refresh, we should now start to see our command, and here we go. So if I finally found the right event. Granted, event viewer is not the easiest thing to shift through alerts from, right? And that's why Wazoo is such a great help to SOC analysts. But here once I found the right event, we can see, hey, I actually captured the command that I just ran via PowerShell. So we see my curl command out to opensecure.co, which is awesome. And we see some other kind of metadata around it. And we also see what PowerShell responded back with, right? So if we look at if we open back up our PowerShell terminal, we see that it complains that it could not create a SSL TLS secure channel. And sure enough, we also see that in that output here. So that's awesome. So we're now able to see everything that's ran or invoked via PowerShell, which is great, which gives us even much more insight into our Windows servers, right? A lot of malware takes advantage of PowerShell to do its nasty little things, and being able to monitor what is being ran and invoked via PowerShell gives you so much insight into your Windows servers. But again, this is still, event viewer is not the sexiest thing on the eyes. It is very hard it's like finding a needle in a haystack with all this. So what we will do now is actually output these events to Wazoo. And so I'll go ahead and bring up my Wazoo web UI here. So here we are here. And first, before adding the agent, I'm actually going to configure the default agent group to be able to grab the PowerShell logs that are populated within Event Viewer here. So I'll go ahead and go to my default agent group under the agent.conf, and I will copy this centralized config. So I'm telling the Wazoo agent, hey, I want you to grab up the PowerShell logs that come through the event channel and send those over to me. So I'll go back to that, and just paste this guy here. I will then go ahead and save that. We get file successfully edited, so that's good. And now let's add our rules to our manager. So I've already made some default rules for you guys that you can copy. You could get, of course, more advanced with these rules if you would like to, but isn't really needed for this demo here. So I'll go to manageable files, I'll select custom rules, I'll select local rules, and then I'll just paste them here. So we will save that, and I will go ahead and restart the manager. I will then go back to agents, and I will need to deploy a new agent. So all that is pretty easily done. So I'll say Windows, my Windows manager is hosted here. I'll use the default group so that it will get the new agent config that we just created a second ago, and copy that command. And ironically enough, we'll use PowerShell to install the Wazoo agent. So let me open that up as an admin, and I will paste that in there, and we should actually see these within Event Viewer pop off as well. And so yeah, so if I start to navigate to that, we see me downloading the Wazoo agent here, right? So pretty cool, and that's pretty nice to have. But now we have the agent installed. So let's go back into here, select refresh. We see that this guy is active. Now let's go ahead and select this guy, and let's see if we can get some PowerShell events to pop off. Actually, before I do that, let me go ahead and turn off Windows Defender, because it will block this file that I'm about to download here. So I'll just turn all these set to off. Do not recommend in in a production environment, so use with caution. And then I'll just say GitHub apt simulator, I think is a good one to use for that. And yep, so it's this guy's repo here. I'll select their release, select their zip file, and Chrome is complaining at me, but we can just select show all, and you can say keep dangerous file, and I'll say yeah, keep anyways, just because I like to live life on the edge like that. And then we'll go to downloads, or whatever directory you downloaded to. We will extract, and yeah, that's fine. I'll just extract it there. And I'll go ahead and click into this guy, and then you'll have a batch file, this apt simulator, and I like to right click, run as admin, and then this is warning you, saying that this will simulate apt attacks, so don't do this on a host on the network. Make sure this is run in a sandbox or something you have completely isolated. So I'll go ahead and say yes. I'll do 0 for running every test, just to go crazy with it. And now it is starting to kick off. So now we should also start to see PowerShell events start to come through. So if I refresh, we can see some now starting to come through. But again, this is still not the easiest way to view these events, right? So while that runs, let's go back to our Wazoo instance, and let's refresh. All right, so let's start to go ahead and dive into some of these. All right, so here we see so here from running the apt simulator, it looks out they're trying to connect via backdoor to a command and control that's hosted on googleaccountservices.com. They have some other registration variables that they're setting, and then some actions that they're trying to do as well. And here we can actually see the PowerShell script that it's calling. So it's calling this c/temp/wmi backdoor, and it's using, here we see, PowerShell to do it. All right, so that's awesome. Let's look at some more of these logs here. So if we let's look at one of these guys, and let's see what we were doing here. So again, okay, so again, it's looking to connect out to. Here we're using a different PowerShell script though, this netcat. Looks like it's trying to set up a reverse shell back out to this Google account services.com domain over port 80. So it's looking to receive commands out from this command and control server. So that's cool. And then we see some other PowerShell events. Here it's now taking advantage of a process to do some nasty things. So that's cool. So now we're starting to ingest events that are happening on our boxes that are being invoked by PowerShell, which is really awesome and gives you a lot more insight into what's going on your Windows host. And in the event that malware does get on to a Windows box, you know exactly, and if it leveraged PowerShell to escalate any privileges, reach out to any command and control servers, hijack any processes, or do any network enumeration, you know exactly the steps that it took. And you can, of course, set off your alarms, bells, and whistles to alert your staff when some malicious PowerShell activity is going on your servers, which is great and gives you much more insight into the nasty threat vector that PowerShell can be and oftentimes is when malware looks to propagate and ultimately hijack your host. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me in this video, and I will see you in the next one.